And for people who might be facing the back, we just put the chairs on this side so that people could visit with each other, but you may want to seat yourself to face the front. So, and there's, plenty of food, so you can get up and help yourself whenever you want more food. But welcome and thanks for coming. My name is Theresa Ditter, and today's talk is called The Protein Myth. I have it divided up between an introduction and the actual presentation. And the purpose of the introduction is to give you an understanding of our group. We're called Building Healthy Community. And then that's just real short, and I'll go through that, and then we'll get to the presentation. But to start with, I have a degree in nursing and chemical engineering. I worked for about 7 years as a nurse. I went back to school and earned another bachelor's degree in chemical engineering. So I worked as an engineer in several medical device companies for approximately 28 years, and I've been in the medical field for about 35 years. So just a little bit about Building Healthy Communities. We are an international organization. We are now sponsored by the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. Prior to that, it was Plant Pure Communities, which grew out of a film called Plant Pure Nation. We are an all-volunteer organization, so we don't provide any products or services. Everything we do is for free. And our goal is to create and support a grassroots movement that promotes the benefits of a whole food, plant-based lifestyle. Some of you may be hearing this for the first time and thinking, what the heck, I love my meat. I would never give up meat, but please keep an open mind. You may be surprised, and it may start to make some sense to you. So our goal here is to support people wherever they're at in their journey to eating healthier, using nutrition to gain better health. Some people are curious, some people are thinking of going plant-based, and some of you might be quite skeptical, and that's good. Some of you are already plant-based and want to share and learn more, but everybody is welcome. So let me explain what we mean by whole food plant-based. It means eating food as close as possible to its natural state. You can eat Oreo cookies and drink Coke and say you're vegan, but it's not a whole food. So we say, like, eat an orange versus a cookie. Or, we also kind of promote limiting oil. Oils are not a whole food. It takes like the olives from an entire tree to make 1 liter of oil. You extract that little bit of oil and you leave behind the phytonutrients, the fiber, and we say, why not just eat the olives versus the olive oil? And evidence supports the use of a whole food plant-based diet to prevent, treat, and reverse chronic illnesses. You can regain your health, vitality, and energy. I say my health is my wealth. Americans are overfed and undernourished, and it isn't an all or nothing. Even small steps toward eating whole food plant-based can make huge impacts on your health. So we also follow the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine's Power Plate, and it has fruits, legumes, grains, and vegetables, and legumes are beans and lentils. It's recommended or suggested to avoid or minimize meat, dairy, eggs, fall, fish, and processed foods, and to minimize or avoid salt, oil, and sugar. And for those people who want to take it one step further and suffer from heart disease and do not want to get stents placed or bypass surgery or be on a lot of drugs, there is an additional step you can take, and it's called the Heart Disease Reversal Diet, or the Esselstyn diet. Per his program, it's eating greens 6 times a day, because eating the greens and putting a drop of balsamic vinegar actually helps to increase the nitric oxide, which makes for very healthy lining of the arteries. They also recommend avoiding nuts, seeds, olives, avocados, coconut, limit soy products to 2 times per week, caffeinated coffee, smoothies, processed sugars, and refined grains. They say to go SOS free, which is salt, oil, and sugar free. Limit fruit to 3 per day because of the fructose, which can increase your triglycerides. The heart disease prevention program is a little less strict, but again, this is for people who are really want to dig their feet into this and and go down that path. So every bite you take is either fighting disease or feeding it. What you put on your plate can have a profound effects on your health. So I like this picture because it shows a comparison between people who eat a carnivore. At the bottom would be the keto or carnivore or low carb diet. As you go up, we have the omnivore diet, which shows that the artery is closed about 3/4. Vegetarian artery partially closed, and then vegan artery or whole food plant-based would be an open artery. And just keep in mind that in 2015, a team of scientists got together and examined lots of literature and determined that processed meat is a number 1 or group 1 carcinogen to humans. It's up there with cigarettes, and that unprocessed meat or just regular meat is possibly a group 2A, so meaning it's possibly carcinogenic to humans. So where to find us? We're on Meetup. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and we send out a monthly newsletter. And if you haven't already signed up and you are interested, there's a sheet at the back. So I'll just give you a little bit about myself. I've been plant-based since 2008. I read the China study book. It turned my world upside down. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I then went on to read about 50 more books, watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts. So I believe that eating plant-based has allowed me to have an active lifestyle. It resolved my low back pain, weight issues, rosacea, and I was able to reverse hypothyroidism. And just to give you an idea of how I feel that eating this way has helped me to enjoy my life and be active. Last summer, my husband and I did a 2-week trip to Morocco, biking in the mountains. Last summer, I did Ragbri, which is a big bike ride across the state of Iowa. We did 406 miles in 7 days. That was my 5th Ragbri. And last September, I hiked the Appalachian Trail, which was about 100 miles over 3 weeks. And then in November, I visited my daughter in Colorado and did the Manitou Incline, which was straight up. So we started here and went up there. It's 0.88 miles, 2,744 steps. It took us an hour and a half, but just taking steps straight up. So that's it. Put this one away. Now we'll go on to the presentation. So now we're going to talk about the protein myth, what you all came for to hear. Let's start with our closest relatives. I have a picture here of the gorilla and some chimpanzees. They are herbivores. Their diets are anywhere from 97 to 99% plant-based. That 1 to 3% is usually ants or termites. So, and then, I forgot to say, gorillas are about 10 times stronger than we are, and chimpanzees are about 4 times stronger than we are. Then there's Patrick from, I forget which country he's from.
Canada.
Canada? No, he's like from, no, Eastern Bloc country, an old Eastern Bloc country. So anyways, in 2011, he was listed as Germany's strongest man. In 2012, he was the European champion in powerlifting class. He's featured in a film called The Game Changers, which is an excellent film. And guess what? He's plant-based. So I think, and you can disagree with me, but I think that we look more like gorillas and chimpanzees, that we have more in common with them than we do lions, tigers, and wolves, who are carnivores. So I think that our genetic makeup makes us more of a herbivore than a carnivore. Even the largest land animals are herbivores, and they get enough protein from plants, and they're big and strong. And I'm sure many of you have seen this cartoon, or you've been asked, if you are plant-based, where do you get your protein? Well, we should be asking them, where do you get your fiber? 97% of Americans are deficient in fiber. How do we flip that around? So now I have a question for the audience. How many people have ever heard of a clinic called a protein clinic or a protein institute? Does anyone know of such a clinic? We have the heart institutes, we have dialysis centers, but I have never heard of a protein institute. I did a Google search and I came up with 0. So next question for the audience. How many physicians do you know that are specialists in protein deficiencies? Raise your hand if you know someone. So I don't know of one either. A protein doctor isn't a formal specialty. It usually refers to nutrition experts, dietitians, or scientists. Next question. How many people do you guys know that said that they've been diagnosed with protein deficiency? Anyone? No one? I've never heard of anyone like that. Does anyone know the medical term for protein deficiency? Anyone? It's kwashiorkor. It's a form of malnutrition that occurs when there isn't enough protein in the diet. It's usually seen in places where there's famine, a limited food supply, where poor countries, and where there are droughts or natural disasters. So then I looked at what are the top 10 leading causes of death in the US, and I did not see protein deficiency in there. I see heart disease, cancer, accidents, strokes, lung diseases, Alzheimer's, diabetes, kidney diseases, and liver diseases. And at the bottom we have COVID-19, but this chart comes from the CDC in 2023 when COVID was still a problem. So again, I don't see protein deficiency in there. I then found this article that says to find out how many people have died in the US from protein deficiency. And this is from the National Institute of Health, and it says that the number of malnutrition fatalities in the US hit 6,762 in 2020, or 0.27%. That's a pretty low percentage. Oops, I want to go back. Again, this is malnutrition, but it's not pure protein deficiency. And this little cartoon says, what will people assume will happen if you become vegan? And then on the right side it says, what actually happens? You're fine. I've been vegan since 2008 and I'm still alive. I must be getting enough protein if I'm able to do the biking, hiking, dancing, and working out at the Y. I don't even think about it. I don't even worry about if I'm getting enough protein. So the protein supplement market is huge. The market for protein supplements is almost 11 billion for 2025 and projected to be 22 billion by 2032. Do you think America's obsession with protein has gone too far? You would think that the number one fear of Americans is not getting enough protein by walking through our grocery stores. You see walls of protein supplements and powders. We lead the world in science and technology, but health is not our claim. Making money seems to be more important. There's a trade-off with all these protein powders. Alone, protein tastes terrible. They have to add sugar and artificial sweeteners to make it even taste good. It then becomes a processed product. whether it's plant-based or not plant-based. Additives can disrupt the gut bacteria. There can be long-term toxicity due to lead, cadmium, mercury, and arsenic, as tested by Consumers Report. Whey is a byproduct of making cheese, and some people may be lactose intolerant. Actually, excess protein puts an undue pressure on the liver and kidneys, which you will see later. Grocery stores have whole rows devoted to protein bars. We have lots of normal everyday products promoting protein. Protein is advertised on candy bars, ice cream, cereal boxes, frozen dinners. It's just endless. So what are the key drivers for marketing protein? Some of it's the GLP-1s for weight loss. People think they need to eat extra protein to preserve muscle mass as weight is lost. It's convenience with the protein bars. We have social media platforms like TikTok, YouTube videos, and Instagram that have fitness influencers advocating for high protein. And then we have health and wellness coaches and trainers who promote high protein due to building up muscle. Because Americans are excessively focused on consuming protein, this leads food companies to add it to a wide range of products. So now I'm going to focus on the social media influencers. Influencers have become the new authorities in the world of health and wellness in the US. With their large followings and convincing content, they can sway consumer behavior and shape purchasing decision. Americans are turning more and more to social media influencers for guidance on their health. Influencers tend to be good looking, they sound convincing, they're charismatic, but they're not scientists. We end up having to do our own research. If you want to get rich, create a protein bar. So perhaps some of you have seen this in the stores. It's the RX bar. It has 20 grams of protein with 210 calories. It has egg whites, peanuts, and dates in it. It was created by a guy named Peter Rahal, who started the company with only $10,000. He sold the RX bar for $600 million to Kellogg. Then, after his non-compete ran out, he went on to develop the David bar. At 28 grams of protein, it only has 150 calories. But to achieve that, the bar became ultra-processed food. It has a fat in it called EPG, or EPG, which is a modified plant-based oil. Does anyone remember the days of Olestra, when they were putting that into potato chips? Well, the problem with Olestra was that it caused anal leakage due to its low melting point. So when they formulated this EPG, they made sure that it would be a solid at room temperature. And then this guy is Paul Saladino. So again, how are social media influencers so successful? Their TikTok voice is designed to maximize engagement. It is a calculated performance. Social media influencers have a distinct and highly persuasive way of speaking. Their TikTok voice is designed to maximize engagement, retention, and brand trust. This communication style is not accidental, it is a calculated performance. They have products to sell, whereas scientists are too technical and boring and don't have time to entertain people. In contrast, Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo, has a PhD in energy and climate science. She's the author of 100 papers, 2 books, and a contributor to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Canada has many scientists and engineers as politicians and even PhD economics. So, what do we have? We have influencers. The people shaping the narrative are not scientists. Scientists spend decades doing metabolic studies, epidemiology, constant testing to see if they can repeat the results, or food systems research. Nutrition science doesn't advance through vibes or confidence. It advances through slow, methodical, uncomfortable accumulation of evidence.
There is a loud, organized, low-carb and carnivore influencer ecosystem with their podcasts, their brands, their courses, their supplements, and a shared identity. When influencers replace scientists, nutrition stops being science. It becomes a performance. With all these advertisements and influencers, you see how many Americans have been duped into, even including our healthcare providers. I'm sorry, but physicians don't know anything more than we do. They're just as duped by the social media influencers as the rest of us are. And I've been to conferences where physicians came to the plant-based conference because they needed their credits to keep their license. And they have showed up and they're not even sure what the whole lecture is about. It was cheap, they need to get their credits. And so they got up to the microphone afterward and said, "Oh my gosh, this has blown my mind. I can't believe what I'm hearing." So how else are influencers so successful? Well, like I've already said, they have an unbelievable power to sway human behavior and drive sales. It's concentrated in the hands of a few. Of course, none of them have done any scientific research. They make wild claims. I've even seen them cite articles to support what they're saying, and when those articles have been looked up, it says the opposite of what they're trying to claim. It disproves their theories. There's a lack of trust in scientists and institutions. People like to hear good things about their bad diets, and I'm sorry, but healthy food is boring and stable. Some people think that healthy food like vegetables, fruits, beans, and grains tastes so bland. But if your diet is high in sugar, salt, and fat, that's what taste buds become normal. Those tastes become normal to you. But taste buds do regenerate every 1 to 2 weeks, meaning they can be retrained to enjoy new flavors. I think my plant-based food tastes pretty good, and I think what was brought today is really good. So lately, the U.S. has turned against science and research. RFK Jr. said we are ending the war on saturated fat. So I'm saying, like, let there be more heart attacks? Now that we've turned against science and research, the U.S., who long prided itself in science technology, and some of the best research universities are kind of getting trashed. Now we welcome a non-science person to run the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. The new dietary 2025 guidelines say eat more meat and French fries cooked in beef tallow. So Paul Saladino, who I mentioned before, was at the White House with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. taking shots of raw milk. He staged his products in the background, right there. He sells nutritional supplements through his company called Heart and Soil, which focuses on desiccated organ meats and animal-based products. He founded and sells these supplements that specialize in the organ meats and related nutritional products. He heavily promotes the benefits of raw dairy, and I hope everyone knows that raw dairy is a problem because there could be some bad bacteria in there and you could get really sick. He collaborated with Erewhon Market on a smoothie containing a raw kefir and immunomilk, which is a freeze-dried colostrum product from Heart and Soul. I'm not sure where the colostrum comes from. This is a blow-up of the products that were in the background. And here is one of his products that contains collagen with trachea and scapula and costs $60 per pound. So I can save you a lot of money. Why spend $60 per pound when you can buy this dog food for $2.50 per pound? It's the same products of beef, trachea, and gullet. So Protein Mania has taken over grocery stores. It's transformed grocery stores into $114 billion industry. Where high-protein fortified versions of all kinds of food dominate our shelves. And this is purely driven by consumer demand for muscle health and convenience. Everyone wants to cash in on the protein obsession and make money, thanks to social media influencers. And I'm putting this in here because I thought this was interesting. A restaurant that says it like it is, Heart Attack Grill. This restaurant actually exists. I Googled it. I actually was in it many years ago in Las Vegas, and when I Googled it, apparently it still exists. It's a hospital-themed restaurant where waitresses wear nurse outfits. Each patient dons a hospital gown and a hospital wristband. If you don't finish your food, you will receive a paddle spanking on the cheek by one of the nurses, and then you have the option to buy the paddle afterwards. So this type of restaurant seems to appeal to Americans who pride themselves on eating a meat-based diet. So here, their menu is very high in calories and fat. They have different types of hamburgers. They have one that's called the single bypass, up to the octuple bypass. So what you're seeing is a picture of the octuple bypass burger at 19,900 calories. And with that, you can eat the flatliner fries cooked in pure lard. So this is exciting and it's fun and it's great for people who say that the taste is worth dying for. And the next topic I want to talk about is the human body cannot store protein. There's no place or organ where the body can store protein like it can fat and carbohydrates. So what happens to the extra protein? Well, to start with, the building blocks of protein are amino acids. There are 9 essential amino acids, which means the body must get them from food. There are 11 non-essential amino acids, which the body can make on its own. When you eat food and it has protein in it, your body digests it and it breaks it down into amino acids. Then the body puts back these amino acids back together to make new proteins. It's used, protein is used for building muscles and tissues. It's used for growth, repair, and vital body components. So protein is kind of used all over the place in the body. And like I said, protein cannot be stored. So what happens to the excess? First of all, when you ingest the protein, it gets broken down into the amino acids. It makes new protein. It grows through this transformation where the nitrogen is removed and you end up with ammonia. This is done in the liver. The liver removes the amino acid. And then the liver converts it from amino acid into a less toxic urea, which is then eliminated as urea by the kidneys. So after the nitrogen is removed, you have a carbon skeleton, which is right here. And then that is normally broken down into ketone bodies. And ketone bodies will float around in your bloodstream. And that's if there's not enough glucose to burn, or it's stored as a fatty acid. And in some cases, it is turned into glucose. So this is really important now. All plants contain all of the essential amino acids. So I just want to be very clear about that. Every single plant has all of the amino acids that you need. This chart, I know, is hard to see, but it tells a good story. On the far left, we got groups of food. So at the top is animal foods, followed by beans and legumes, by grains and pasta, nuts, vegetables, fruits, and mushrooms. At the top, we have all the essential and non-essential amino acids. So when you look over the colors in this chart, you can see that plants have all of the same amino acids in nearly the same proportions as animal foods do. This chart was put together by Dr. Christopher Gardner. He's a Stanford professor and nutrition scientist. He argues that most Americans consume excess protein and should shift from animal-based to plant-based sources. He emphasizes that muscle growth relies 90% on exercise and not on protein intake. So, as some of you may know, the new dietary guidelines for Americans just came out, and it's supposed to be for every 5 years, so this one's 2025 to 2030. Prior to that, we had from 2020 to 2025 what looks like the PCRM plate: fruits, vegetables, protein, and grains. Of course, they could do without the dairy since a lot of people are lactose intolerant. And then over here with the new dietary guidelines, what we have is an inverted pyramid. It prominently displays a raw steak, a turkey, a block of cheese, hamburger, milk, and that might be cottage cheese there. So the recommended daily serving for saturated fat is supposed to be less than 10% of calories, but per the media influencers who promote more keto and carnivore diets, they're giving saturated fat a comeback. The people advocating for diets high in saturated fat have acquired too much political and policy-making power in the U.S. And recently they've been lobbying the U.S. government and major health authorities on the war on saturated fat and to abandon the long-standing recommendation to limit such fats to less than 10% of daily calories. A recommendation that 2/3 of the population already ignores. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr., presenting the guidelines to the press, proclaimed, "We are ending the war on saturated fats." The letter introducing the guidelines makes it clear in whose interest they were crafted. We are realigning our food system to support American farmers, ranchers, and companies who grow and produce real food. Well, they can just as well grow broccoli. The overwhelming preponderance of data from thousands of studies published over many decades is very clear. People who eat less saturated fat have lower risk of cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. Saturated fat is most commonly found in animal sources, including red and processed meats, butter, cheese, whole fat milk, cream, and ice cream. There are also some plant sources that are high in saturated fat, like coconut, palm oil, and vegan butters. So, a little chart here about the recommended amount of protein people should eat. So from 20 to 2025, the guidelines said 0.8 grams per kilogram per day. And then the new one says 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram per day. They push for increased protein, emphasizing red meat and full-fat dairy. But currently, Americans already exceed their needs of protein. What about older adults? Do older adults need more protein? It's been said that older adults need 25% more protein, or 1.0 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. However, a large number of scientists pulled all the data together and published this massive report that I'm showing here. And the main conclusion is that there just wasn't enough data to support an increase adults, older adults. So, I mean, if somebody does have an issue in their later years, it could possibly be due to malabsorption, but it's not going to be necessarily due to not having enough protein in the diet. And all the plant-based advocates say that if you're getting enough calories, you are getting enough protein. And that thinking that you have to get it from animal sources, there's actually a downside. Eating more plant proteins has been associated with a lower risk of stroke and overall mortality. You could actually live longer and have fewer chronic diseases with plant protein. And high protein diets place an undue burden on the body. For the kidneys, high protein increases the workload as the kidneys must filter out that much more urea. You can get dehydrated because of having to flush out the excess urea. There's weight gain because of the extra calories from protein. Remember before I said that you cannot store protein, and the excess can be turned into fat. So other risks are overconsumption, especially of animal protein, has been linked to increased calcium excretion by pulling calcium from the bones. There's cardiovascular concerns, it's a bigger workload on the liver, and it's also associated with cancer tumor growth. This chart shows that we spend the most, at least double, for healthcare compared to other countries. We live 5 to 6 years less than other developed countries, but spend twice as much on healthcare. Some countries are bending the curve downwards for obesity, but not the US and Australia, where protein is promoted. Who eats the most meat? Well, the US and Australia consume the largest quantity of meat in the world. The top 11 consumers of ultra-processed foods, guess who? The US leads. UK is second of eating ultra-processed foods. And the 10 most obese countries on earth, well, guess what? The US leads. So we're number one. So is this due to the amount of meat or the amount of ultra-processed foods or high protein, or is it all of that? So now I'm going to dive into 7 ways that animal protein is damaging to your health, which I've been kind of hinting at. So number 1, animal protein and fiber. Remember when I said that 97% of Americans are deficient in fiber? Animal protein has no fiber. Meat has no fiber. Meat is also the culprit in some GI issues like ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, constipation, and diverticulitis. I know people who have stopped eating meat and were able to resolve all of those issues. Plant proteins comes with fiber, antioxidants, and phytonutrients. Meat does not. High fiber intake is associated with decreased cancer risk, especially colon and breast cancers. So the Institute of Medicine recommends that men consume 38 grams of fiber per day, but the average adult only eats about 15 grams. They believe that our early ancestors probably ate over 100 grams of fiber every day. Again, we should be asking, where do you get your fiber? So animal protein and IGF-1. There's an increased cancer risk as animal foods have a higher proportion of the essential amino acids, resulting in higher levels of the hormone insulin-like growth factor 1. This hormone stimulates cell division and growth in both healthy and cancer cells. And so high levels of IGF-1 have been consistently associated with increased cancer risk and malignancy. Then there's animal protein and TMAO. Consuming animal protein results in us having higher levels of the trimethylamine and oxide. My husband Paul could probably pronounce that better than me. TMAO is a substance that injures the lining of our arteries, creates inflammation, facilitates the formation of cholesterol plaques in our blood vessels. Eating animal foods causes our gut flora to facilitate the creation of the TMAO. Then there's animal protein and phosphorus. Animal proteins contain high levels of phosphorus. Our bodies will normalize the level of phosphorus with a hormone called fibroblast growth factor 23. This compound has been found to be harmful to our blood vessels. It can lead to abnormal enlargement of our cardiac muscle, leading to heart attacks, sudden death, stroke, leaky valves, arrhythmias, and heart failure. And a large heart has to work harder and over time gets less efficient at pumping blood. This inefficiency causes a fluid buildup or edema, shortness of breath, and fatigue. I know as a nurse that I've taken care of patients that had, swelling in their feet, their ankles, and eventually can work its way up to the lungs. The lungs can start filling up with fluid. And then there's iron. Iron is the most abundant metal in the human body. We consume it in 2 forms. There's the heme iron, which is found in animal foods, and then there's the non-heme iron, found mostly in plant foods. One of the problems with heme iron is that it can convert less reactive oxidants into highly reactive free radicals. The free radicals can damage our DNA. In addition, heme iron can catalyze compounds in our bodies to become potent carcinogens, which has been associated with gastrointestinal cancers or colon cancer. And the body is able to absorb, the body has to absorb all of the heme iron that you ingest, but it's the opposite with non-heme iron, where obtained from plants, where the body just absorbs what it needs. And then we have sulfur. Animal proteins have higher concentrations of sulfur-containing amino acids, which can induce a subtle state of acidosis. The body has to maintain a very tight pH level, and if consuming meat products tends to be more acidic, and so the body has to balance that with, it'll pull calcium from your bones to neutralize that acidity, and over a long enough period of time, this is what they call osteoporosis. And then there's, the last one is cholesterol. Most animal foods contain saturated fat and cholesterol, even the lean meats do. We humans do not have a need to consume that extra cholesterol, as our bodies synthesize all the cholesterol that we need. And extra cholesterol is a problem. It can increase our risk of developing heart disease. Remember, it's the #1 cause of death for men and women in the US. And then the body has to store that cholesterol someplace. It gets stored in the lining of your arteries. And there are some people where it gets stored, you see this picture, these are pockets of cholesterol. So ingesting that extra cholesterol can be deposited in other parts of the body as well. I know as a nurse, I saw this in patients. So, short summary, plants have protein, fiber, antioxidants, phytonutrients, and are cholesterol-free. Atherosclerosis, or plaques of cholesterol that accumulate in the lining of our vessels, is less common on a plant-based diet. Eating this way may also reverse atherosclerosis. The plaque buildup often begins in the late teens and early 20s, with studies showing that fatty streaks are found in almost all young adults. So it starts young. I mean, it takes a lifetime to build it up to the point where it will cause heart attacks. Up to 85% of people in their 20s may already have signs of early atherosclerosis. So then I did a search to see what are the healthiest diets. And the Mediterranean diet always came up as #1. But I did find one article that said the Okinawan diet was #1 and Mediterranean was #2. So the Okinawan diet is in Japan. It's considered to be one of the healthiest diets in the world, healthier than the Mediterranean, and it has the lowest obesity rates and the 3rd longest life expectancy of any developed country. It's also one of the blue zones. When I ever do a search for the carnivore or the paleo low carb diet, they're always rated as the worst diets. And the dietary guidelines elsewhere around the world always lean towards more plant-based. And then I like this cartoon. It says, after going vegan, replacing all the animal heads just made sense. I just thought it was cute. And then I have to throw this in there. A plant-based diet is not just good for your health, but it's much better for the environment. What you choose to eat or not eat is the most significant factor of the personal impact we have on our environment. So it takes 2 football fields to produce enough food for only one person for 1 year consuming a meat-based diet. If all 8 billion of us on the face of the earth were consuming a standard meat-based diet, we would need at least 2 planet Earths to feed us all. We only have 1. It takes just 1 football field of land to produce enough food to feed 7 people for an entire year. Now imagine, we're up to 8 billion people on this planet. When are we going to end up depleting all our resources? We only have 1 planet Earth. I can't imagine, but this just can't go on forever. So in summary, eat whole foods, mostly or all plant-based. Many studies show that plant protein is healthier and promotes longevity. Trust scientists and not social media influencers. I can't emphasize that enough. Americans eat an obscene amount of meat and processed foods, and most saturated fat comes from animal sources. Animal protein is damaging to your health, and plant-based eating is healthier for us and for the environment. And you don't have to be vegan for a healthy diet. Just even eating more beans, lentils, vegetables, and fruits is a step in the right direction. Bottom line, please stop obsessing about protein. If you're getting enough calories, you're getting enough protein. And ask yourself, are you getting enough fiber? And that's it. These are my resources, and it's the end of my presentation. Are there any questions that I can possibly answer? Yes.
I've listened to a lot of people like yourself over the years, and that was an excellent speech. I mean, you did a great job, and you're very accurate. So, I mean, if anybody can help themselves and go more plant-based, they're going to do themselves a lot of good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
You mentioned the Okinawa diet.
Uh-huh.
What's included in the Okinawa diet?
Well, I know that they eat a lot of purple sweet potatoes. A lot. They're 90% plant-based, and they're about 10%, maybe some animals stuff in there, but they don't have any obesity. They pretty much hardly have any heart disease.
Mm-hmm.
And the blue zones, I mean, really, that should be a testament in and of itself, because these people live really active, full lives until the end of their life.
Besides the purple
Sweet potatoes?
sweet potato, what else?
I actually, in a different presentation, I have a slide about them.
They do eat a
A
little
variety.
fish. They do eat a little fish,
Yeah.
but not a lot.
But that would be
They do
that
eat some
10%.
fish.
The rest would be, they grow their own gardens, so I'm guessing a lot of vegetables.
I can look it up too.
Yeah?
I was just curious when you mentioned that protein powder could potentially have a lot of lead and cadmium in it. Why would that be?
It's because when you process something into a powder, it gets concentrated. If there is any lead or cadmium or arsenic, it also gets concentrated. So, I mean, some foods will naturally have a little bit of toxic chemicals, but again, it's just that it gets concentrated. Good question, guys.
How long did it take for your digestive system to become accustomed to it if it was pretty damaged?
I don't know. It's been so long. All this time I'm evolving and I'm eating healthier and healthier and healthier. I didn't start out that way. Probably because it was a long transition. I first gave up meat, which was fairly easy for me. It was like, hurrah! I don't have to worry about cooking meat. I don't have to debone that chicken, which I hated doing. I was so happy to not have to make meat anymore. I was like, yay, I don't have to eat it. It's actually better for me. And then I think it was dairy. And then I started to give up oil, because that's a processed food. And the last thing was butter on my popcorn. That probably took me about 6 months. That
The
was a
main
long
thing
one.
is, look at the results. Look what
Yeah.
she's able to do. Look at the
I'm-
things she's left behind.
I'm
Unbelievable.
68 and I'm living the dream. I'm in my go-go years. So I retired a couple years ago and I'm living the dream. I'm doing all the things I wanted to do. As an engineer, I sat in front of a computer on my butt for 8 hours at least per day, staring into a computer, and I promised myself I was going to be active, and I'm able to do it. I feel so blessed that I learned about this back in 2008.
I'd like to say something. My sister was vegetarian for many years, her whole life. And probably about 8 years ago, she called me and she said, my cholesterol is always 200, 220. She said, why would that be? And I said, well, because you eat so much cheese and you eat way too much junk food. All this processed junk food that you eat, even though it might be vegan. And she quit, and about 2 months later, she called me, and her cholesterol had got into a normal range. And 200, by the way, isn't a normal range. 150
Yeah.
is what you want to be.
They said to target to get below 150. Now,
And the LDL, 70.
yeah,
Get down to that level, and you're pretty much heart attack proof. You can go to bed at night, not worry about not waking up, you know.
you know, I even though I've been plant-based, my cholesterol was still on the high side. So I've had to work really hard trying to figure out how and what to eat.
Well, that's not
to
for
get it down.
everybody,
It
but
isn't.
the thing
Yeah.
is, you've done everything you can, you're plant-based,
If
and
you-
you're fine, even though your cholesterol is too high.
Yeah. I was able to recently get it down to, my total cholesterol down to like 161. But then there's my husband. Paul, you want to tell him what yours was recently?
So it was 119,
Yeah.
And your LDL?
51.
55.
Yeah, that's as good as it gets. That's top 1% right there.
And there's no such thing as being too low. I heard a doctor on a YouTube say that his son's LDL was 10. So he was raised vegan through pregnancy and through his growing up years. So he probably was able to achieve that because he started out that way. Most of us ate this, all of us, I bet, have eaten the standard American diet until, we learned better. So,
I was a retail meat cutter for 41 years.
oh my,
So
you've come a long
I
way.
know all about meat. And I know all about the damage that it does. What goes into the pork sausage,
Yeah.
the garbage, the pig ears, and anything that, they don't throw anything away. And you're getting all this, and I don't care what kind of garlic, bratwurst, whatever they say they're putting in it. It's garbage. And it's damaging you, big time.
Do you remember that pink hamburger that was
Oh,
coming
yeah,
out of?
yeah. Kind of slime.
Can you talk to that? Yeah, this pink slime.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk to that about what it actually was?
Not really. I don't consider myself on that issue. I can't really talk on that. No.
Okay. What? Go ahead.
Could you say a little bit more about the comment you made about Dr. Esselstyn expecting you to eat
Oh, 6 greens,
6 times a day with Alzheimer's?
a drop of balsamic vinegar. But you could probably speak better to that. Because you guys actually do that.
We're eating the Esselstyn diet in our house, and it's all right, I can say. My husband stopped smoking after 49 years. He couldn't walk around the block without chest pain. And he decided to go whole food plant-based to take care of that. Today he plays pickleball 3 hours every day, and he doesn't
Whether
have,
I did at best.
and he doesn't have
I
chest
put
pain.
15 pounds on my back, weight at best, and I did a pickleball almost non-stop.
So the cornerstone of the Esselstyn diet is really to have 6 portions of green leafy vegetables throughout the day. And I don't know the exact explanation, but there's something about, Dr. Esselstyn says it turns your blood vessels from Velcro to Teflon. It makes your blood go smoother. Something with nitric acid turning into nitric acid. I don't remember exactly the explanation. But, and so you want to have those green leafy vegetables throughout the day, like you're feeding your blood vessels all the time. And the green leafy vegetables, it includes broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, beets, and then the regular green leafy vegetables, the kale, collard greens, and all that. So we make sure to have all those vegetables in our house, either steamed or roasted, or just different ways. And then for each meal, we make sure to have a portion of that, and also in between meals is like the snacks.
I just like to add something.
Yeah.
3 years ago, I could barely walk and eat again, which is not very healing. without taking those
The
tiny,
nitroglicerol.
tiny pills. I still carry them with me as a safety, but I haven't been using one for I don't know how many weeks. Only in extreme cases when I do something really crazy, I may need something like that for a couple of seconds just to reduce the anxiety more than the pain. But yeah, so you don't get rid of the fear immediately when you go plant-based. I mean, there is still fear, and I'm not going anywhere without this bottle, but I haven't used it, so that's one thing. The other thing that I can also have to say, you don't get rid of the drink very quickly of ice cream. but you know, that's the price that I'm paying for the ability now to play pickleball 5-6 days a week, 3 hours each time. And so, yeah.
So the other cornerstone of the diet is really absolutely no oil. And for people who really want to reverse heart disease, and it's what she wrote on the slide, no avocado, no nuts, no olives, really nothing that has oil inside at all. So if you open my refrigerator, you will see cooked beans, a whole grain, cooked vegetables, and fresh vegetables. And then I say we assemble a plate. We just take the different things that we have and assemble a plate, and that's our meals. Oatmeal, of course, the 3 fruits. We like to have a muesli. I make oatmeal with flaxseed. Flaxseed is the only source of oil. Flaxseed and chia seed you want for your omega-3, between 1 to 2 tablespoons every day. So I put in some fruit and oatmeal, and it's a wonderful, satisfying, fun breakfast. And yeah, so that's in a nutshell.
And I became very creative in pork test, right? Making food so it looks great and tastes good. And not using any oil or any salt. So it takes a little bit experimentation, but if you want to see like a picture of things that I make, I can share with you. So it's not very difficult to come up with building some taste for something, or making something very pleasant to the eye and to the stomach, or to the mouth. Taste bud. Yeah, thanks.
I was going to say too, Dr. Esselstyn is 92 years old. He takes no medications. He was a marathon guy in his day, and the tests he did, I believe it was with 200 people, and they were the worst of the worst.
Right.
And he reversed heart disease with all these people. I think only one had an event, and I think that one person actually went off the diet.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Dr. Esselstyn is Caldwell Campbell, the China study.
Right.
Look at the China study, reverse heart disease and cancer with a lower protein and a lower fat diet. So that's the direction you want to go.
Yeah. And when Theresa mentioned that people already in their 20s or even in their teens start to have deposits of cholesterol in their arteries, that comes from Dr. Esselstyn. He, in the Korean War, he did autopsies on American soldiers, and he found already streaks of cholesterol in their blood
You
vessels.
suppose that's all the spam they were feeding those soldiers?
No, it's also what they
That was
grew
their
up
big
with.
fish, spam.
But it's also what they grew up with.
Well,
Because it doesn't happen in 1 or 2 years.
No.
It's an accumulation.
And that's
of
pork
several
butt.
years.
That's about the fattest pork you can get your hands on.
Yeah.
It's maybe pork belly is fat. But these people, they fry that stuff up, and they know what tastes good. It's destroying you.
I know. We grew up with Spam. My mom would fry it in a pan of oil. They would make it into a sandwich. It has sugar in it.
So there's the science right there. These people are talking to science. That's what you want to be looking at. Not these people out there, the influencers who have money to make, the beef industry, the dairy industry. Absolutely. These people are out to make money, and they don't really care about the health of the country. Unfortunately.
No. And can I just add something else about the various diets that are out there? There's a story that was in the Forks Overnight newsletter. It was about this couple that liked to do long distance bike rides. And they were doing a bike ride that was like 1,000 miles or something. And 700 miles into their bike ride, the husband was having some issues with his heart. He ended up having bypass surgery. And so he and his wife in the hospital room after he had the surgery, they're like, "Can we do?" The doctor said, "Exercise more." And they said, "Well, how can we exercise more?"
The exercise won't do it.
No.
I go to the gym every day and exercise at least an hour and a half, but I wouldn't really need to do it because I'm eating properly.
Yeah.
But I do it just for the fact that I want to make sure that as I continue to age, that if I do fall or whatever, that I'm able to recover from a hip injury or whatever.
Well, then they told the doctor, we are following the DASH diet, which is recommended by the Heart Association. And so they did their own research and came up with eating whole food plant-based, or the Esselstyn diet. So the DASH diet, it's great for maybe 75% of the population, but not for that 25% still have heart disease. But Esselstyn has shown that he can pretty much make it zero. So,
And another thing, watch the sodium. Most people are indiscriminately eating $3,000, $3,500, $3,500.
grams.
Yeah, and we should be under 1,500 for us older people, which is almost everybody.
So, any more questions? I'm glad we have such a lively audience here today.
And so we really make these potlucks because we want to showcase the food, that it can be delicious, and we like to inspire people to eat this way a little more, and we're happy to feel that.
And what are two better examples than these two? Look at them. Are they lying? No.
Well, yogurt is normally made from milk. It's a milk product or a dairy product. There are soy yogurts, there's oat milk yogurts. I've eaten them on occasion, but it's not quite a whole food. So it's not like something that I stock up on and I eat every day, but once in a great while. Speaking of smoothies, you might want to add that on the Esselstyn diet, he promotes chewing versus taking your greens in a smoothie.
Right.
Because the chewing process, that nitrous oxide gets released starting with how you chew in your mouth.
Good point.
You also need to cook your spinach.
What's that?
You need to cook your spinach because our body can't break it down raw. Gerson covered that in her Gerson therapy.
I have never heard that.
Yeah, there's something within the plant life that our bodies can't break down.
Just
So you
spinach?
want to cook it.
Or what about kale, or is it a hard?
I've just only heard about spinach.
There's probably some nutrients that don't get broken down, but there's probably a lot that do if you eat it raw. But I wouldn't discourage anybody from eating raw spinach.
I mean, the key, I think, to this whole speech here is go as far plant-based as you can go. Go as far as you can go. If you're going to have your yogurt, have some yogurt if you got to have yogurt. It's not ideal. It's a milk product. But go as far as you can go that direction, and your health will improve. Your arteries will improve. You won't. The plaque will actually soften, and you may not get that stroke or heart attack.
Yeah. You can actually reverse
Yeah.
atherosclerosis. It's possible.
Or you're talking about
If the plaque is calcified, that can't be reversed.
It can be
But if it's
done.
soft plaque,
get rid of all the
it's
stuff.
possible to reverse that.
And I was looking
Get
at
enough calcium from the vegetables without eating
it's the
dairy.
gas.
Yes,
Oh,
definitely.
Because the gut lining.
Like I was saying in
Right.
the talk,
You know, I
eating
still
actually
ended up getting a
makes
gas
you
on
lose
it.
more calcium than what you take in, because it causes more acidity
It's just very
in your
well done.
bloodstream. And the body has to balance that by pulling calcium from bones. And, calcium is kind of like protein. We obsess way too much about it. You don't have to worry about it. And calcium isn't the only nutrient that the bones need. There's like 17 other minerals and nutrients that your bones need. It's not just calcium. So But, you know, that's how dairy sells
Oh,
milk.
right, yeah, they tell you, when you have the bone density, oh, you gotta eat cheese and yogurt and.
I know.
But here's the interesting thing, the countries that eat less dairy have better bones.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, it's the countries that eat more dairy that have more osteoporosis.
Right.
I'm playing golf with a couple of guys who are my age. I'm going to be 69 soon, and or older. And those who eat unhealthy food, usually it takes them a lot longer to do those knee replacement, hip replacement, shoulder replacement. The healing process for them is much longer compared to those who do a fair amount of exercise and eat a better diet.
Yes, I come from a family of 8 kids, and I've seen my brothers getting their knee replacements. They're overweight, they can't move around very much.
So it says something that it's not always genetics, right?
It's not only genetics, no.
Well, they say that genetics goes the gun, but lifestyle goes the trigger. That's what a
And
lot of
genetics
times-
might be 15%, or most of it is up to you.
Lifestyle.
Most of it is lifestyle.
Well, I think that's it. Let's wrap it up, and thanks for coming.